He's not fighting for us. He told in L.A., he told the union, hurry up and get a contract. That's the mentality they have. They don't even know what the hell they're doing today. Well, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to save everybody's job when it comes to the ILA and to all the unions around the world, because we're going to fight with that alliance. I'll shut them down throughout the world to prove that we can beat them.
We focus today on a strange recession process that's good for consumers, et cetera, but hurts companies in terms of employing folks in those key fields. And I believe this is going to affect everything to have the job losses related to the recession process we're going through. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We opened today's video with comments from the head of the International Longshoremen's Union. Basically, what he was articulating is that the ports got shut down today because pretty much on the East Coast all the way to Houston, the longshoremen are on strike. They're on strike because they want approximately 80% salary increase over, I believe, a 4-year contract. And so the offer they've got is about 32%, and hopefully they meet in the middle someplace so that those ports can reopen. As you also saw, he's very angry. So the nature of that anger suggests that the negotiations may take longer and inconvenience everyone and add to what we're going to be discussing today, which is, well, where's the recession coming from and why? And, how's that going to affect all of us? So the first item I wanted to review today is that I'm calling this a strange recession. Why? Because we've been promoting something for a long time, which is an Indian proverb that focuses on the fact that there were 6 blind men, each of whom was holding a different part of an elephant. Each of those blind men knew exactly that their portion of the elephant represented a very clear picture of what an elephant looked like. And so therefore they stuck to their guns in terms of their definition. An example of that would be the most important industry in terms of impact on the stock market is that 25% of the companies are either oil, like an Exxon or a Chevron, or oil related, like a Halliburton and all those companies. And so what happens is whenever oil prices fall, the lower the prices get, it starts to impact that industry. So right now we're at about $66 a barrel for West Texas crude. Once that gets to about $55 a barrel, they're going to have to start shutting down operations and laying off workers. This sucks for the oil companies because they're making less money and they have to slow down how fast they expand their drilling operations because it's really driven by what oil prices look like. Now, this comes forward with why I think this is a strange recession issue. So what's been happening is that China is in a sort of an economic battle with the United States right now, and they're identifying sort of small and large ways in which to stick it to America. One example of this is that they've developed a cartel or a group that's called BRICS, B-R-I-C-S. That's Brazil, Russia, India, I believe South Africa, and Turkey has added themselves, but they haven't added any letter for those guys. So what's happened is that Russia has had a thing going where they were offering, particularly India and Russia, a 25% discount off the market price of oil. And so things have worked out pretty well so far in that reduction in price hasn't seemed to affect a lot. But as we have an expansion of the number of companies that are benefiting from that discount, you now have both an unknown amount of oil usage and an unknown amount of, there's a lot of unknowns inside of their trading group. So we're not seeing all the data. the data is important because in the case of China in particular, they're one of the largest consumers of oil around the world. So after their both demand and consumption is taken off the market, there's an information piece there that the rest of the market doesn't have in terms of how to price the oil that's out there. So the direction of things is downward in order to address just that lack of information that you cannot see and therefore bake it into how prices are occurring. What we do know is that because they're not buying in the world market and they're focused on their relationship with Russia, and the same thing for India, we now have a situation where there are a lot of people that are saying, I don't know what the demand, side or pricing side looks like for those entities. So due caution requires us to perhaps lower price. And so you have the rest of the oil producers fighting out the remaining demand for oil that's out there in the globe is what's occurring. So the next sort of challenge problem that's happening is China just did a little routine as part of the same trading group where they decided to cancel grain purchases from the United States, from Australia, and one or two other countries. So now we've got the secondary problem where there's a bunch of places in the Midwest that were ready to sell the grains, be it wheat or the other grains that were planted, months and months ago, are ready to go to the market. And the Chinese are saying, we're not going to take it. We're canceling their orders. And instead, they're going to places like Brazil and other members of that BRIC group to replace those supplies of grains, primarily going to China, but going throughout that bloc. Not only are they canceling orders, but they're also not saying what the prices are that are going on for those grains. So now you have a number of, particularly, I want to say, Midwest producers who are stuck with a bunch of grain they can't sell, and they kind of don't know what market is either, because that information is being held back by the participants in that. So now we have an interesting problem. We have sort of the farming community. It could be suppliers to the farms, be it fertilizer. It could be people like John Deere. So all those entities are now suffering. The value of land in the farm spaces are falling. The next thing I wanted to review is we all know about the reduction in office space needed by a lot of people who are now working from home. So what we're seeing now is rolling elements of how there are all these key sort of components of the economic landscape that are basically in recession right now for the reasons we've covered. And now we throw in the whole ILM, the Longshoreman deciding that, they're going to go out on strike. And now we add another brick to this. It could be imports or it could be exports of different types. So what all this is doing is creating a nightmare. Now, there's a good side to this. If you're a consumer and you use, let's say, gasoline to move around, the lower the price of gas goes, the more disposable income you have that can be used for going out to eat and other things. So there is a way where some of this could be offset in the manner I just described. The other part of this, though, is that, obviously we're getting an environment in terms of a feel for how this is all working. And the general environment is not real good. So I wanted to review all this today with you because one of the challenges is that our economy is kind of like a ship, and there are certain components of it that are in motion. So as we produce and ship goods out, as we do everything we're doing, producing oil, we're shipping that out, all these goods that are going out, the more of the pillars of the market that are sort of getting slammed, it's sort of pushing everything into sort of the recession mode. Now, again, the challenge here is that we have some good things happening, which is lower oil prices, for example, but we have some bad things happening, which is there's a lot of oil workers who won't be working anymore because once we drop below $60 a barrel, heading for 50, there are a lot of fracking operations that have to start shutting down and just using the oil that wells that they've already dug is what they're going to end up doing. So I wanted to review all of this with you guys today because I believe that this is actually creating an environment that's good for some, bad for others. And, for example, the drop in prices of lithium-ion batteries meant that Tesla could lower prices and still have the same profit margins. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. And just like with the elephant analogy I gave you, you can have sort of knowledge or one or two spots, but not the whole animal. And that really affects your ability to sort of command the data. I've been really, really focused on oil of late because I've been studying there's a new Nigerian Dangote refinery, and the impact of the high price of oil really affects certain poor countries like Nigeria. And so it's been fascinating to stay on top of everything that's going here. But I wanted to note that there's a lot of sort of moving parts, but what I think you're going to see is declining prices on a lot of things. And there will be some winners and losers, mostly losers, but I think transportation companies, I think Tesla will benefit because 2/3 of what they buy in terms of the car is sort of oil related. And so we shall see. We'll keep you posted. But overall, I would have to say that this means lower growth of GDP. This means lower prices. This also means lower jobs in a number of industries. And it's hard to tell for sure where the huge benefits are going to be or where it's going to be really bad. But it's worth trying to understand it because I think as it feeds into the economy, it affects a lot of things that are going on. At any rate, I want to thank you once again for joining us. Our next show is definitely going to cover the Q3 earnings update coming out. And we very much look forward to your comments on this. Next, we'd like to move over to our health tips. The focus I want to going back today is that we've done a lot of conversations about your kidneys. I was kind of surprised because in terms of your heart, the process is exercise can be helpful, better blood flow, a lot of other benefits. And in terms of your kidney, the goal of trying to do 2 or 3 days a week of no meat gives it a break. And with that break, we have a healthier circumstance. A reminder on Ozempic, our doc suggested that a 10 or 15 pound weight situation is a go to the gym. But if you're 50, 100 pounds overweight, you should really consider Ozempic as a way to get your body mass down. So checking your BMI on a regular basis is also an idea to be considered in this space. Once again, I want to thank you for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, au revoir, Lahith Arrivederci, namaste. And in Jamaica, we say, enough respect, walk good. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.